Hoddesdon Kart Club is one of the UK's oldest established kart racing clubs, and each year they play host to the London Cup here at Rye House Kart Raceway. One of the highlights of the national racing calendar, the weekend features races for 8 different categories and caters for drivers as young as 8 years old right through to senior competitors. Club regulars go head-to-head with visiting drivers from other circuits, and they're joined by a significant number of entries from Super 1 British Championships, all of them looking to win one of the sport's most prestigious titles.
Well, this is Rye House in Hoddesdon. It's round 8 of the club championship, which is incorporating this year's London Cup. It's a busy weekend with, I think, just under 160 drivers, which is 25 to 30% up on last year. So in terms of the turnout, we're really excited and looking forward to a good race meeting. London Cup's got a lot of history. It's been running at the circuit for about 25 years. A lot of famous drivers have progressed from racing at Rye House to go on to single-seater cars and even Formula 1, the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button. So it is a very prestigious event. Today we will see club members mixing it with Super 1 drivers, so it's a good chance for, should we say, the local boys to test their skills against some of the best drivers in the country. Sometimes it works in the club drivers' favour because local knowledge is sometimes a little bit more important than the actual sort of skill itself. So it's a very technical circuit, very testing, it's very challenging, so I think that's what a lot of drivers are looking for.
Featuring a mix of tight hairpins and fast sweeping bends, Rye House is around 1,000 metres in length, and some of the quicker karts will complete a lap in just 35 seconds.
The track's really different to what I've been used to, like quite a lot. Big hairpins, it's like corner brake, corner brake.
Good driver's track, it's quite twisty, challenging.
When it gets a bit hotter, you have to be a lot more smooth around here, not chuck it into the corners.
You've got to be quick thinking all the time because so much is happening in front of you. Anything can happen really.
It's a technical track, so if you don't get it right, you're going to be walking through the corners and all that.
It's quite a short track for the grid today, but I enjoy the track. Some nice technical parts like the hairpins, and I like Pylon. It's a nice corner.
Difficult to overtake, but that's our job to make sure that we can do it really. So you can get good close racing.
With this track, you have to drive within yourself a little bit more. There's a very fine line between overdriving it and going quick.
There's a lot less room for mistakes, so it makes for exciting racing. If you're further back on the grid, you really do have to push hard to come through the pack, because if someone's half a kart length off of line, it really does make it difficult to come through.
I think it's good actually, but the bad thing is that the toilets are quite far away.
As our race commentator Chris Hartley explains, Rye House provides an intense driving experience.
Hold tight, keep your arms in at all times and enjoy the ride. Here's a flying lap of Rye House. Flat into Stadium Bend, apply more steering lock as it tightens mid-corner. Ride the inside curb and keep the throttle buried for Reggie's elbow. Next up, the Infield Hairpin, a quick but hard jab on the brakes, but don't go in too hot or you'll run wide on the exit. Through the kink and hit the brakes for the Outfield Hairpin. Carry the speed but don't run wide. There's not much runoff. Accelerating towards turn 5 then, Pylon Bend. Get over to the outside curb, then a sharp left and straight line the corner. Short and sharp on the brakes into complex Nouvelle. Then it's the S's, right then left in quick succession. Try not to unsettle the kart right through the final corner. Plant the throttle as quickly as you can and back onto the Hamilton start-finish straight. You've just travelled 1 kilometre in 42 seconds.
This is raw motorsport. There are no electronic driving aids, computerized engine management systems or other high-tech gizmos. This is all about the driver and the machine working together as one. Of course, technology has moved on since the sport first developed in the 1960s, and serious attention to detail is required to get the very best out of the karts. The gearing, tyre pressures, carburation, axles, wheels and chassis setup can all be tweaked. Under huge strain at thousands of revs per minute, engines need to output the maximum power while staying within the regulations and without blowing up. With drivers in each class essentially running the same base equipment, any tiny fractions of a second gained can dramatically affect the outcome of a driver's weekend. So whilst the focus on track is on individual performance, back in the paddock it's very much a team effort. In between sessions, drivers and mechanics work relentlessly to fine-tune their equipment. There are challenges, luck plays a part, probably more so than in any other sport, and there are many disappointments. But the highs are exhilarating. This is karting. And so to our first class here at the London Cup, Honda Cadets. Using a long-life 4-stroke engine and with a top speed of around 50 miles an hour, this is the class for young kart racers aged 8 to 13. Following timed qualifying, the drivers had to negotiate their way through a number of heats to determine which of them will make it through to the final, and also their starting positions for the big race. Although karting is a sport within its own right, for some this marks the beginning of a journey towards becoming a professional racing driver. A place on the Formula One grid may be a distant dream, but that's what many of these young cadets aspire towards. With the right amount of talent, hard work and backing, drivers like Luke Whitehead hope to represent the future of British motorsport.
I've been inspired by all the F1 drivers around because I've always been into cars. I've always been a massive petrol head with all cars and stuff. So I mean, I've always been wanting to do F1, so that's how we started it. Well, I've been doing it since I was about 5.5, maybe 6.
How old are you now?
I think about 9 3/4, 10 in October the 10th. We don't come here as locals or anything, but we just thought, you know, let's just come down, because it's a big event, we can just come down and have a little bit of fun. We're right on pace at the moment, we're doing pretty well, so I mean, I think my hopes are pretty high.
A pair of top 10 finishes in his heats was enough to put Whitehead through to the final, though others like number 68 Matthew Hayden would qualify nearer the front. Meanwhile, others like number 26 Kieran Jeremy and number 54 Zach Rogers would have to fight hard just to make it through to the next stage, in one of the most fiercely competitive classes here at the London Cup.
Yeah, it's going quite well. I had a bit of a problem with grip, but I think everyone had a problem with grip, and I needed more power out the corners, but we've sorted that out now. I'm hoping for mid-pack in the A final. That's really where I want to be. I'd like to go into, if not Formula One, I'd like to go into some sort of motorsport, like rallycross or touring cars or something.
With the results of both heats combining to set the starting grid for the final, these races were as much about being consistent and staying out of trouble as they were about being fast. The heats also gave the drivers a good amount of time out on track and more opportunities to work on their setup on what was becoming a very hot and challenging day. Harry Thompson and Kian Jewis were both heat winners, as was number 13 Mark Kimber. But Kimber was also able to add a third-place finish to his tally, which was why he'd be the driver starting the final from pole position. Heat 3 was a taster of what was to come. The top 7 separated by less than 1 second at the finish line. One driver to suffer misfortune during the qualifying heats was number 66, Jake Yilmaz. We caught up with Jake to find out how he got involved with the sport.
I went like a little test drive on that mini track, and then after that my mum bought me a helmet. Without then suit, and then kind of built up to a kart.
And how does he view the London Cup?
It happens every year and it's very popular, and the trophy is huge. So.
Amongst the favourites to take this year's title is Kian Jewis, who arrives here sporting the number 1, having just wrapped up this year's Super 1 British Championship.
My dad used to do karting, and so did my dad's dad, so they sort of inspired me to start racing. After a season of the British Championship, the best person who's got the most points wins the championship, but I've won the championship with a round to go, so I don't have to turn up to the last round, but I can if I want to.
So what's attracted the country's leading Honda Cadet driver to compete here at Rye House?
We thought we'll just give it a try. We've never been here before. We would see what it's like, and if it was really good, we would come again next year maybe. It's quite a short track, but it's really technical, So you've got to be really smooth and not throw it into the corners. It'll be definitely a learning curve.
The top 20 drivers from the heats automatically qualify for the London Cup final, but there were still 8 places available at the back of the grid, and all of the non-qualifiers would now have one final opportunity to make it through via the B final. Here's our commentator Chris Hartley with race highlights.
Having only just missed out on the automatic qualification to the final, it's number 26 Kieran Germain in the purple colour scheme who gets this B final underway from pole position. Number 45 Ethan Newsham alongside him on the front row, but Newsham on the outside line through Stadium Bend, and through into his place comes number 87 Oliver Behrman and 66 Jake Yilmaz also sneaking through. So it's Kieran Germain who leads from pole with novice driver Oliver Behrman second, but it looks as though he's about to come under attack from Jake Yilmaz, the lad having made an excellent start from 5th on the grid. On to lap 2, and the race leader is being put under some serious pressure now by Jake Yilmaz, who currently lies 7th in the Hoddesdon Kart Club Championships. Everyone in this class powered by the same 4-stroke engine, but a wide variety of different chassis in use. Germain, for example, runs the Project 1 chassis. Yilmaz is on a Zip, which was the company formed by the late great Martin Hines, a 3-time world karting champion. He's the right-hander at Complex Nouvelle, and Germain runs wide, but just about hang on to the lead. Germain, Yilmaz and Behrman remain the top 3. Number 78, Louis Short, sits in 4th place with front row starter Ethan Newsham next in the number 45 kart. And the top 5 are running as one here, with Yilmaz now trying to find a gap into Stadium. Through he comes, a well-executed move, and we've got a new race leader. That's 5th to 1st then for Yilmaz. He waited patiently for that opportunity to arise. There's no point making any rash moves here because everyone in this lead group is in a position to make it through to the final, while they're joined onto the back of the 20 drivers who've already got a place on the grid. Young Oliver Behrman doing an impressive job here in 3rd place. He runs black and white plates to signify that he's a novice driver. Not that you'd think it from the way he's performing. A good move into the hairpin to snatch 2nd place away from Kieran Germain. And that's just afforded our race leader, Jake Yilmaz, a tiny bit more breathing space. We're on to the 10th and final lap of this Honda Cadet B final, and there's just over 1 second covering the top 5. Kieran Germain in the purple race suit looking to get 2nd place back from Oliver Behrman. He's alongside on the exit to the hairpin, but now Germain is offline, which will allow Louis Short to come through and pick up 3rd place. And in fact, Germain might be demoted further still as Ethan Newsham draws alongside on the exit to the Outfield Hairpin. To Complex Nouvelle for the final time, Yilmaz leads from Behrman in 2nd, Short in 3rd, and then it's Germain, so it looks like he managed to fend off Newsham into Pylon. Here, though, it's the checkered flag, and it will be a delighted Jake Yilmaz who crosses the line to win the race. We'll see him and the other qualifiers back in action for the final after the break.